Hey, Janice.
Hello, Anthony.
Today we're going to talk about 6 reasons being executor is so difficult. And you and I know this very, very intimately well.
Oh, yes, yes, we do.
So, as listeners may know, I've been an executor for well over 100 estates, and I don't think I ever remember there ever being an easy estate. I did air quotes and quote unquote easy
Yeah,
estate.
easy state. I can
So,
tell you I haven't seen one. No.
so if I've never seen an easy estate and I have hundreds of estates worth of experience under my belt, I can only imagine how hard the process is for somebody like an amateur family member or a grieving family member who's never done it before, right? So that's probably not great.
No, and I think that's the key is that the family is grieving and now you're throwing him into this role that is so complicated. It's hard.
So I personally, I'm seeing I'm reading the writing on the wall that we're turning into a society where we outsource a lot of things, from Uber to Airbnb to Fiverr. And I kind of don't understand why this hasn't happened yet for executorship. So my prediction that I'm laying out there now is that soon, I know the legal world moves slowly, but soon enough, we will see an increase in outsourcing this role of executor to folks like me, to professional executors, because there's really no good reason why the family should be doing it. Bottom line.
Absolutely. And once they realize that it's going to be so much easier on not only them, but the whole family,
Yeah.
it's going to make sense. But I truly believe that there's just not a lot of information out there. So that's where we come in.
Yep, let's do it. Let's inform. So there's what are we doing here? 6 reasons. Yeah, 6 reasons why being an executor is so difficult. Number one, people don't know this. Executorship is non-delegable. Non-delegable. That means so a lot of smarty pants come in and say, "Oh, I'll be the executor," and then I'll just use a power of attorney to get my deadbeat nephew, my deadbeat unemployed nephew, to run, to do all the busy work. Can't do it.
Not
You are
happening.
not. Yeah, you're
No.
not allowed to delegate your executor powers. It has to be you. It has to be you on hold with the IRS. On the phone for half an hour. It has to be you standing in line at the court for how who knows how long.
Ugh.
Right? I hear it in your voice. You know what I'm
Can you
talking
hear me?
about?
I'm holding back on telling stories and yes, but yes, that you can't just ask somebody else to do it. It's your job.
Another element of delegation is you have to, like, the final decisions are all yours. You can't say at the end, well, the CPA has told me to do that, or the lawyer is the one who told me to do that. Yes, that all may be true, but the buck stops with you. Any problems, any poor investment decisions, any tax problems, they're your problem. So,
No pressure, but you have to do it correctly
so yeah,
yourself.
if you're going to take on that level of personal liability, and that means if things go wrong and there's not enough money in the estate to cover the mistake, it comes out of your pocket. Yet the money that you work at your real job for.
Your real
Yeah,
paying job.
yeah, exactly. We'll get to that in a second. So yeah, the buck stops with you. You can't delegate responsibility or liability. It's all on you. All right. Number two, and Janice, you can speak to this one very well. When when you work with executorships and you're trying to settle estates and do things, it kind of feels like you're in a time machine, no? I
Yeah,
mean,
like back a few hundred years. I mean, for example, there's a lot of different things you can do online now, right? You can do almost anything online, except for most of the things that have to do with executorship. You kind of go old school and you have to use a fax machine, like a real fax machine, or snail mail. We're like one notch short of having to use a home landline, where you pick it up. But no, but it's important because that's still how they operate.
I you serve a lot of you help a lot of attorneys in different areas. How many different cases involve fax machines besides my estate cases?
I would say it's rare, and if it has to do with the IRS, they do a lot of faxing still. But that's
Still,
again, that's what yeah, oh yeah, they're
that's
still either fax or mail. I mean, we're still old school with that. But most
explains.
everything,
Yeah,
yeah,
that explains
is
a lot.
it does. Going back to what you said earlier, on hold with the IRS, I think I was at 15 minutes yesterday before I finally got a live person to be transferred to another
Mm,
department to be
mm,
put on
mm,
hold.
mm.
But yeah, fax machines, you still have to have one, know how to use one. Granted, I use it from the computer and it's all electronic, but some people don't have that. You have to put it in, press the button, press send, and go.
And for our younger listeners, a lot of things have to be done with original documents and snail mail. And I know, I don't know about you, Janice. I know a lot of younger folks who don't know how to use the post office or what a stamp is. I mean, as ridiculous as that sounds. So it could become a real problem or a real hurdle, right?
Definitely, especially when you have executors that may be serving all over. They may live somewhere not close to you. You have to send them something. They have to then go to the post office and send it back, which there is a lot of mailing involved, especially when you're dealing with original documents. We have to have the original signed document to be able to do things as an executor.
Very, very old school, to put it nicely. All right. So
maybe one day we'll hold out hope.
Yeah, by the time the estate stuff gets up to email, the real world will be like in robots and virtual reality. So it'll always be a step behind. Anyway, all right. So the third reason why being an executor can be super difficult is because the service sucks. Sorry, I don't want to be
don't candy
such harsh language.
It's just it is what it is.
You're gonna see so many times, or you're gonna hear so many times. I have to check with my supervisor. And what that means is you're dealing with tellers, representatives, agents, I don't know, whatever word this bureaucracy uses. You're dealing with folks who are used to doing, who have the scripts and the training to deal with their more common tasks, like opening a new checking account or signing you up for a new life insurance policy, right? But they're almost never well trained on niche situations like closing a deceased person's account or cashing a savings bond.
I was going to go there.
Right. Or selling a piece of real estate that has two deceased people's names on it. These are less common situations, and because they're less common, it's going to be harder to find competent counterparties to help you through the process. And if you don't know what you're doing, if you're like an amateur, if you're a surviving spouse or a nephew or a child, if you don't know what you're doing and the banker doesn't know what you're doing and you have two people who don't know what they're doing, that's going to be a whirlwind of back and forth nonsense, go nowhere frustration.
Major frustration. And I actually feel like these roadblocks are just becoming more of the norm. I don't know if it's the internal policies that are changing because they're cracking down on fraud, which I understand, but it is making the job as an executor very difficult. For example, savings bonds, did you bring that up? You have a few that you have to cash as an executor. So online, per the government, in the United States, it says you should be able to sign a certain way on the back. And so you proceed to go all the way down there, all excited with your savings bonds to cash them out. And the bank had a different policy. Yeah. Frustrating, right? So now we're back at square one. We have to figure out where the actual rule lies between the government's rule and the bank rule, or find another place. So it's very frustrating.
But again, we deal with this on a regular basis. We're built out to know, okay, cool, this bank has a silly representative or manager, whatever. So we're going to call the other bank down the street and see if we can get a more flexible or a manager who's willing to call the legal back office and sort it out. But that's how it is. If you didn't know what you were doing, you might just take them for their word and get stuck in this cycle of back and forth,
And the flip side of this, a good thing that since we've done it so many times, we do have connections at banks that we could call and say, hey, we're running into a problem, and they're very willing to deal with us because we've dealt with them so often.
Yeah. Patting ourselves on the back real hard there.
Right? Well, it is not easy to make good connections sometimes, and you have people that are willing to help, and I think we have a good pool of those.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, now, number 4 reason why it's so tough to be an executor, you get stuck in the middle. And what I mean by that is, on one side, and this is super stressful, on one side, or for families and regular folks, on one side you have the banks and the courts and the IRS that are the slowest molasses bureaucracies in the world, especially when it comes to estates, right? If it was your individual 1040, they might actually be a little faster. But like we've been talking about, everything is slower and stuck in a time warp when it comes to estates, and you have very, very untrained agents and representatives because they're not used to these kinds of situations. So the slowest possible progress in human history on one side. And
backwards, it's going faster.
And on your other shoulder, in your other ear, You have creditors. You have other family members. You have, where's my money? Hey, when am I going to get my check? Hey, do you have any idea when I'm going to get my check? Constantly chirping, texting, adding, tweeting, constantly checking in on you. So for us, it's kind of par for the course. We know how to deal with it. We know how to buffer and set expectations. But for cousin Bob, getting those texts from his cousins nonstop, who he may already have some kind of weird family dynamics with, can lead, and plus with the stress of dealing with these super slow bureaucracies, can lead to explosive family blowouts.
Yes. Yep. And I think you nailed it on the head back there when you said about expectations. Since we've done this before and you talk to somebody for the first time, you set it up and explain how this isn't going to be a quick process. Actually, you wrote an entire book about this, that this isn't a quick process. So you set that up to begin with, and you talk to everybody and say, listen, it would be wonderful if we could hand you this tomorrow, but that's not the reality because we've done this about 3,000 times. But that lowers the stress then for everyone involved as compared to someone who's never done it before and thinks, I'm going to walk in, we'll be done in a week.
Yeah. And they keep saying, oh, it'll be another week. Oh, it'll be another week. We say from the beginning, wait a year.
Yeah, it is not going to. I don't think we've done anything in a week, but we've tried. But
Sure.
you're at the mercy of whoever you're handing that document to.
Cool. Number 5, why it's so tough being an executor. And I'm going to reference an article that talks about how to sue the executor of the will. And the reason I'm referencing that is because you have a lot of personal liability. You have a big, big target or crosshairs on your back. Like we talked about earlier, the buck stops with you. Any problems, any poor investments, any poor decisions, you are the one who's personally financially responsible. They will come after your money. There are articles, just Google it, about how to sue you. There's a whole discussion about, oh yeah, I'm going to get that executor. So unless you really know what you're doing and you feel pretty, bulletproof, ironclad that your decisions are rock solid, are you prepared to wear that crosshairs? I mean, I don't know. I guess it's personal preference.
I don't know. That's not my preference for certain.
Yeah. All right. So the last reason why being an executor is so tough is, the pay is not that great. So there is compensation for being an executor, and it's usually set by state law, so it's not really negotiated or haggled. It's usually a percentage of the estate. It's less than what a broker makes for selling a house. It's not that, it's a small percentage. The problem is if you are a non-professional executor, this is your first or maybe second time doing this, I mean, you're going to spend a lot of individual man hours and kind of make mistakes and kind of do things the long way or the harder way. And when it boils down to it, your per hour compensation is going to be terrible. It's going to be like you were at a Starbucks or McDonald's. Seriously.
It might not even be minimum wage at that point if you add up all your time.
And these are hard hours. These are stressful hours where like your worst enemy in the family is calling you nonstop and is demanding that demanding things of you.
Right. Right.
Just saying that made my skin crawl a little bit. I'm sure everyone has a family member or somebody in their life where like, oh, now this person gets to call me all the time and bug me. Like, I wish I hadn't signed up for that.
I'll plead the fifth on this one since I think my family listens, but I love them all equally. Yes, no, but at least we've done this again. We've done this before, but we know that when we are getting ready to call the IRS, we expect and block off a section of time for the next hour. That right because this isn't a 5-minute call you're going to make right before you go to lunch. Not happening. You also need to know the times that are a little bit better to call than are not better to call. I mean, we know when to call some courts and when not to call some courts.
Yep.
Some days are bad, some days are good, which does cut out of a lot of time and stress. But, unfortunately, you wouldn't know that unless you've done it. Yeah,
well, yeah, I'll share. Those are great tips. I'll share another pro tip for anyone who made the mistake of doing this on their own. If you have to go to court, call ahead and find out when they impanel jurors. Because when they're doing jury duty, the line for the metal detector is out the door, and you're going to be standing on that line for an hour. But if they don't, you can go right to the front. See, I'm giving you all these pro tips, but you shouldn't be doing this. Hire somebody because you have better things to do with your life. Yeah.
Here's a question for you, Anthony. Let's say they've started the process. They thought they could do it on their own. They're in the middle. Their hair is falling out. Can they still call for help at this point? Okay.
So that's a great question. Choosing to work with a professional executor is much better from the beginning. only because there is a court procedure to swap out, and anything dealing with the court can be sort of costly and time consuming. But I'm happy to talk to anybody about it and lay out for you the costs involved, and then you can do your own cost benefit analysis. If you know that there's still 9 months or more of estate work left to be done, then it might be worth it just to get rid of this, because you can't stand the idea of doing this for another potential year or so. But if you're at the finish line, then I'll tell you you're pretty close to the finish line. Just gut it out.
Yes. No, that's good though. So there's still hope if you're in this situation and you're stressed out. There's still hope.
All right, so that's all we have for this one. Janice, as you mentioned, we do have the book, How Probate Works, available on Amazon. Check it out if you like. And we have another one coming out soon about how to hire a professional executor, right on point here. Otherwise, thanks for listening. Thank you, Janice, and we'll talk again next time. Bye, guys.
We'll talk soon.
Bye.